Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're the hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every day, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can view all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues that affect you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
We will call the February 19th, 2025 Police and Fire Commission meeting to order. Second on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next on the agenda is agenda item 3A, the approval of the minutes from February 12th, 2025 Police and Fire Commission meeting. Any comments, observations about the meeting minutes, which should be in your packet? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve minutes. Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Next on the agenda is item 4, public appearances for non-agenda items. There's no one in the room, there's no one online. So we'll move to the next agenda item, which is number 5, report from the 5A, the report from the police department, staffing report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm filling in for the chief tonight as he's unable to be here, but got a few items I've handed out to you, the monthly report. We were a little behind for various reasons recently, but we were just able to finish that. Typically, we also provide the overtime report. That is also a document that we're wrapping up and will be published in time. I've got some numbers for that I'll discuss as well. I'm continuing that theme. I'll direct us first toward the sworn staffing summary to get the current state of our staff. We had 3 vacancies. We recently had a officer resignation, which puts us at 4. We did have a leave of restricted duty at the time we were creating this document. That person has since returned to normal patrol functions. So we're at a total of 6 unfilled positions at this time. And the monthly report, which we pulled up through this. And then I just hand it out to everyone. Yeah, that's the one. So several incidents that we share on there. We had several burglaries reported, 5 burglaries that were reported, 3 vehicles that were reported stolen as well. I believe that the stolen items is still a trend that's down from where it was a year or so ago. There were no shootings or shots fired this past month. Happy to report. We did also recover 6 firearms in the same token, so no shootings or shots fired, but we did get 6 more guns off of the street. There were a couple of robberies that were reported, and I don't have any charging updates for either of those at the moment. And again, no one's had a chance to read this beforehand. I apologize for that, so there's probably not a whole lot of questions right away.
Captain, just glancing at the report, there seems to be quite a few OWIs.
Yes.
Are we trending up or down or about the same?
Overall, the trend is up. So over the course of the year, particularly the last quarter of 2024, we saw an increase in OWIs. We can make a bunch of theories as to why that is. One I'd like to say is the training that our team has put on with the younger staff, getting more comfortable with detection. We put a high emphasis on OWI enforcement based on the knowledge that they're certainly out there and trying to keep the roads safe. That in addition to some increased staffing that we've been able to have on the night shift hours as people come off of field training, they get better, they come back from leave. We've seen higher numbers certainly than we did a year ago with our field staff positions that are on the road delivering those services. So that could also be a component as to why we're starting to detect more in the past month.
Okay, any other questions about the staffing report?
Any questions? I'll just touch on again the overtime report that we don't have in front of us tonight, but last month we were looking at over 1,000 hours in overtime. In January we were about 2/3 of that, right at 667 hours. About half of that comes from shift coverage and shift extension, meaning they need to stay on to complete a call or maintain minimum staffing levels on any given shift. But again, likely what's helped play a role there is getting the bodies back on the road in a position to actually take away from the need for shift coverage and late extensions of shift. And that's all I have for that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Let's move to item 5B on the agenda, closed session. I'll move us into closed session. Pursuant to section 19.85, subsection 1, subsection E, Wisconsin statutes, the commission will move into closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. More specifically, to approve conditional offers of employment for a police officer, to remove the probationary status of a police officer, and to notice the commission of a resignation of a police officer.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay. All right, we're in closed session. We're back from closed session, moving into item 5C on the agenda. Any actions we need to take?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to remove the probationary status of police officer Dodge.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None?
I'll abstain just because I wasn't in the closed session.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Officer Dodge.
Very much so. Okay, any other action that we need to take coming out of closed session?
I will move to accept the captain's recommendation to extend conditional offers of employment to 3 candidates for the position of police officer.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Motion carries.
I'll abstain for the same reason.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. All right, next on the agenda is item 6, the report from the fire department. 6A, the staffing report.
Good evening. So for the month of January, I'm just going to quickly go down starting at the top of the activity report. We always share our calls for service. We are down by 4 in January compared to last year at this time. I mean, pretty much everything, we're still running more EMS assists than we do other calls. I think we'd like to say that due to the reduction is because of our really good fire prevention efforts and the reduction of false alarms. So we'd like to indicate that how our prevention division is doing a great job on getting those reduced. So they are actively out doing inspections, and they're mainly re-inspections for violations, and we just didn't get those numbers in time at when this the due date was for this report, so I apologize for that. We'll make sure it's in the next month's report. Really nothing changed except for staffing, except for one resignation that we did receive, and that we'll talk about in closed session. We did receive another one, but we can talk about that in closed session too. But tonight, we do have recommendations for POX firefighter. And then we did complete our intern application process and interviews. And so I'll have 3 names for recommendation for our 2025 class. And then we just added in that we're currently going through the fire chief recruitment. No promotions this month. And then last month we had a total overtime of 435 hours, which was up just a little from last year during this time. But I'd like to report that we didn't have to mandate anybody into overtime last month. And then we always share our update that we send out over our Facebook page. And really the only thing that we add in there, and the picture actually is of newly promoted Scott Westfall on the left there, and then Matt Sutter on the right. Those guys, like I said, long time already on the department. They hit the ground running, and they're doing great. So it was a great promotion for both of them. So like I said, the only thing that we really add in on this report compared to the activity report is our average response times for the month. And we're always between like the 6 minutes, 15 seconds to 5 minutes, 30 seconds. It all depends on where the calls are. And a lot of times, the reason it goes over 6 minutes is if we make a lot of runs down to Oak Hill Correctional Institute. That's anywhere between 10 to 12 minute response. So that's what raises our response times up ever so slightly.
Is that a regular call destination?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. It's actually been more, and they have a number of their patients that are very sick get sent to Oak Hill, and they have the medical services for the individuals down there. So that's why you see Fitrona and ourselves going down there quite a bit. But otherwise, it's the same information, just a nicer looking format that we send out to the public. Any questions?
No.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is item 6B, closed session. I will move us into closed session. Pursuant to section 19.85, subsection 1, subsection E, Wisconsin statutes, the commission will move into closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. More specifically, to make conditional offers of employment for the positions of fire science resident intern and POX firefighter, to notice the commission of a POX firefighter resignation, to discuss the fire chief candidates if needed, and to approve the fire chief interview questions.
Second.
Any discussion? No. We're in closed session.
Good.
We're back from closed session. Moving to agenda item 6C, open session. Any actions to take on items we discussed in closed session?
Yes. Motion to make conditional offers of employment for the positions of up to 5 fire science resident intern and 1 POX firefighter.
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
I'll abstain because I was not in the closed session.
Thank you. All right, the motion passes. Next agenda item 6D.
One more action.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there another action?
Yes.
To take from close? All right.
I move to approve the fire chief interview questions.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
I'll abstain because I was not in the closed session.
Okay, motion passes. Next agenda item is 6D, the mayor one-on-one and March 6, 2025 public reception.
Yeah, so starting with the first one, mayor one-on-one. So at our last PFC meeting, we have a built-in step on March 5th for the mayor to meet with each of the candidates one-on-one. Commissioners wanted me to put this on the agenda for today because we didn't have everybody in attendance, but basically to decide whether or not, the mayor did write an email to the commission as she was in a meeting last, when we met last, and asked that she had the ability to meet one-on-one with each of the candidates on that Wednesday because she is the supervisor of the fire chief. So I want to open it up for discussion if you want to talk about it a little bit, but we do have to take action. If we don't approve for the mayor to meet one-on-one, then we would ask City Administrator Chad Breckelin to meet with the candidates with her on that March 5th. So she would still be involved, but whether it's one-on-one is up to the commission.
I move that we allow the mayor to have a one-on-one with the candidates.
Did we get an email, did you say? I did not see an email.
We read an email, we read it to the commission at the last meeting.
And just is it okay to clarify that it's a meet and greet, it's not an interview?
Right, so it's not a scored process like it is for our professional panel interview. It is truly a meet and greet. So like the fire department is having with each candidate for 30 minutes, the mayor's having one for 30 minutes with each candidate. So it is truly just getting to know, conversational. It's not a scored process, so it's a little different.
Okay, so we have
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to note that we have a motion on the floor. We're getting into discussion. I think we should get a second and then have a discussion if there is a second.
Second.
Okay. So now we're into discussion.
Has the mayor articulated why she needs to do this in secret one-on-one?
No, I mean, the email that she wrote to the commission last week is essentially the reason. She is the supervisor of the position, so she just wants a chance to meet with each of the candidates before they become finalists. So it's a matter of just seeing who the candidates are, learning about their qualifications, just like any other type of hiring process where a supervisor is interested to see, who's going to be in that position.
Yeah, and I shared my reasons last week. I think those are all things that can be done with Chad Breckelin sitting in the room as well. It makes it easier for us to expand time for the firefighters to meet with these candidates when Chad's not part of that, and we can put another person on the panel, which I think is helpful. And I also think it's just bad precedent to have someone meeting one-on-one with candidates. And I pointed last week to the example in Dane County where a supervisor for the county met with a candidate for the Department of Health Services, and that candidate dropped out because of something that was said in a one-on-one meeting, and it caused a firestorm, and I don't think we want that as a city.
So we think that could happen with the mayor and the candidates?
Or are we sure that it was something in that particular interview that made that candidate step down from that process? Is that been proven? Has that been fully discovered that that's what happened? But this one is a meet and greet, not the hiring decision with this mayor to speak with. And I don't think it's considered secretive. It's just, let's do a one-on-one. One-on-one is exactly what it says. One person speaking to another person, and that's why it's called one-on-one. And I expressed too the last time, as the most senior person in authority in the city of Fitchburg is, requesting that we honor, the opportunity to have that, because they will be one-on-one conversations to get a feel of who is my staff member, who is over, a fire department. So I think it's respectable for this to happen. Certainly if there was some thought that, did something happen, if we feel like we want to open a discussion with them afterwards, was there anything that was said that made you uncomfortable, to follow up that way? Because using an example for what happened to the other person, are we really sure that that's what it is? Do we have any thought that our mayor would do something like that? And then why would we think that? And I think, again, I've already made the motion that we should consider the request of the mayor and allow the one-on-one.
Sure. Well, we're having discussion now. What I'd like to ensure that each commissioner gets an opportunity to share their thoughts.
Yes.
So we've heard from Commissioner O'Day, Commissioner Banks, Commissioner Barr. Is there a point you'd like to make?
No, nothing that I want to add from last week when we met. I'm okay, and normally you see this when someone is getting hired. And a matter of fact, I think if I was a candidate, I would want to have a meet and greet with the person that's going to supervise me. And for that, I am for the mayor having that one-on-one meet and greet with the candidates.
I've spoken about this too, and I tend to lean more on Tom's side. I agree that the direct report has a place to meet that candidate. I don't see the value in the one-on-one. None of this process we've gone through is singled out or one-on-one. I can't meet with the candidates one-on-one. None of us can. I don't see the motivation, or I haven't heard from the mayor at least, what the motivation is to be one-on-one. Why can't it be the city administrator and the mayor, who are both arguably, controlling this person's job? Why wouldn't it be two people? They still get the same benefits of meeting everybody and asking their questions. So I struggle with the need for it to be one-on-one. I haven't heard from anybody yet a good argument as to why it should be one-on-one and why it couldn't be Administrator Brecklin, the mayor, and the candidate. I think that's a more appropriate message to send. This is the chief city administrator, this is the mayor, and the candidate. They all have a chance. I don't begrudge the mayor for wanting to meet the candidates. I agree. I think that's I would want to meet them too if I was the leader. But the one-on-one is what gives me some pause. Why would you need it to be private? This whole process is public. It seems to me it should have at least, and I also agree with Tom. I think Administrator Brecklin being on one of these panels is inappropriate as well. So if that gives him the chance to also meet the candidates, and that was his motivation for wanting to be on the professional panel, let's say, I'd rather have someone else that's a little disconnected from the process be on that panel than City Administrator Brecklin.
My thoughts, I'm sorry, Commissioner Baxter, will you?
I am also saying I was not privy to the email sent by the mayor, so I don't have that data point to consider since I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'll reserve judgment if I get a chance to see that. Maybe that would change my mind, but it doesn't sound like from some of the other commissioners' standpoints, I agree with their argument that the mayor should meet with the candidates. I just don't know why it has to be private, if that makes sense.
And I guess instead of a comment, it's more of a question. I don't recall solving or resolving the city administrator if he's not going to be part of that meet and greet. Where did we find a place for him?
Yep, so we'll put a place in on March 6th for him then to have a one-on-one, like a meet and greet, similar to what mayor is going to be doing. So that would be on day 2. So we would still want to make sure he's involved. because he has that indirect supervision. But even currently with the leaders, the fire chief and the police chief, they have a one-on-one with the mayor, and they have a one-on-one with Chad. So as a staff member, Chad and the mayor don't meet collectively with the fire chief and the police chief for regular updates. You know, they each have their own meetings with them. So I know the mayor was looking, and I was going to forward you the email, but my laptop died. But the email, basically mayor is looking to have, you know, it's only 30 minutes, so she's looking to have as much time as possible. And if you have another person in the room, you're going to have multiple people asking questions. She wants to make the most of the 30 minutes that she would have with each candidate, rather than Chad's asking questions, and she's got questions she wants to ask, but she doesn't have the opportunity to.
And I think it's important to remember all of our firefighters are only going to get 30 minutes with 8 of these candidates together in a room. And I'd rather try and find ways to expand time for them to have more time with these candidates than, you know, than others. And if we're going to create a new 30-minute window for Chad, what I would suggest we do is put him in the meeting with the mayor and then expand the time that the fire service members have with the candidates on that evening of the 5th.
So the fire chief meet and greet, we already have the times already set for 30 minutes. So I mean, if we were to expand that time, it's gonna impact other things. We have a post-interview discussion with the fire department already scheduled. So I don't know how that is going to work. I would have to play with the schedule a little bit, but we've already blocked off. I think it's 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock that the fire department has to be here in chambers, and that's already a commitment. And if there's calls, so we already have quite a bit of a commitment. So what I'm saying is that even if mayor isn't able to have her one-on-one, I don't think that we're going to be able to extend the time. But instead, the fire department's welcome to come to the meet and greet on the evening of the 6th and be able to talk with the candidates and even be able to have conversations and outside of just meeting with everyone in the department.
Might have also been nice to see the mayor at one of these meetings, and she could have explained herself why she felt it's important to meet one-on-one. Is there precedent? Does anybody know? Is this a typical request of
when we had a deputy city administrator opening, she met with each candidate one-on-one, if I recall. So when we had the police chief, we had a different mayor, and it was Mayor and Chad Brecklin. That was for the police chief. I'm thinking of recent department head recruitments.
But the difference between the mayor and the other people that we're saying is public is she's the only one where the person directly reports to. So there is a difference of what her relationship would be with that end candidate who would get the job. So that's what's different. Everything else is public, but her role in that other role is more connected with the direct reporting relationship.
If you give me
And
2 seconds, I can email you.
There's no other person that will have that. There's, the dotted line to Chad, but this is the direct they report to. We manage and do the hiring decisions, PFC, but that's the person that has direct and not other like that. And so with that, chief have direct reports that they have one-on-ones. And that's, when you're working, once you're hired, you definitely are doing a lot of one-on-ones to do development opportunities to really look at, here's some things that may need improvement, here's some things that are going well. There is a great credence on just us talking and getting an understanding. So, that person can voice their concerns as well.
All right, I'm going to forward this over to you, Sean. So I found her email.
The reality, too, is she has absolutely nothing to say about who gets picked. So I can understand she wants to know the candidates, but it doesn't dictate who the end result's going to be. So once it's approved, she could have all the time she wants one-on-one with the candidate, right? She could
With
be
one candidate, one single candidate, not all of the
But she won't get a chance to vote on who the final
then
one is.
the harm of the person that may not take the job may not be there if then that was the case. Well, it's the harm of, whatever the person had a conversation on just one person in the interview and they backed out, but they could have backed out for several different reasons. Could have backed out because now I have to work holidays, I have to work weekends. What was that conversation? And that's where you're probably getting at. That's why someone else needed to be in the room. But unless that person really says exactly why and what was uncomfortable with me just being one-on-one, if it's not affecting the hiring, this, I still keep going with, this is the senior most leader of our city. That person should be afforded that opportunity. And I've said that before, so I'm just gonna.
My point wasn't necessarily at Tom's comment about the Dane County issue, but she wants as much time as she can to meet all the candidates, to get to know them, right? But there's only one that we're gonna pick, and it's gonna be completely aside from whatever she thinks, because I don't think the mayor has a role in advising us on what she thinks. So she could meet them all 8, or all 4 finalists, or whatever, for as much time as we want, but we're gonna pick the one we wanna pick. And after that, she'll have all the time in the world to get to know that person. So beforehand, I don't still understand the motivation for wanting to have as much time as possible with every candidate one-on-one when she doesn't have a say in the ultimate choice. And her opinion after having those meetings isn't going to be shared with the PFC for us to consider.
It can be if the PFC is open to that. So that's how for the police chief, I mean, we did share how the mayor and the city administrator, what they felt of the candidates, just like we're going to do with the fire department meet and greet. We're going to gather their feedback too, because you're going to want to hear about all the processes, even those that gave the city tour. Everybody's important in the process. So the mayor's feedback, HR myself, I would let you know how she felt about the candidate. So it'd be just an extra nugget of information for you as you decide who to hire.
So there is somewhere in the process where we would hear from her thoughts on each candidate.
Yeah.
And I would welcome and want to hear the mayor's comments about the candidates. I am still not satisfied that creating something different for the city administrator when now he's one-on-one meeting with the candidates. That extension to our process doesn't feel good to me. So now you got two leaders in individual one-on-one meet and greets.
Will you remind me how he got off the panel? I thought he was on the professional panel.
Yeah, so here's our professional panel. We have Sheena Amble, who's a community member, former PFC commissioner, former firefighter. So Sheena is number 1. We've got Andrew Eastman, he's a POX volunteer. We have Garrett Christian, a career firefighter volunteer. We have Chief Anderson, the EMS director. And then we have Chief Grossen. So that's 5. I asked Chief Morales if he could be our 6th person because we're lacking some diversity.
Right,
we
that's
have
a lot of
panel.
fire.
So we could ask Chad Brecklin to be on that panel to make it 6, but then we're not following the rules of the PFC rules and regs that talks about a balanced panel. Balanced panel meaning that we have some diversity on the hiring panel. So that's just not something for the commission to be aware of.
I like the peer approach to the panel, peer and experience like we get from Amble. The city administrator is a dotted line, will be a dotted line leader to this fire chief. So there's the mayor and the city administrator. Having the mayor or the city administrator on the panel is problematic for me, considering that individual will be really working for both of them. Solid and dotted line. I like what we had, that is the 2 of them in a meet and greet. But in trying to find a way to have a single meet and greet, it's creating all these other things that we have to try and figure out. So we're moving away from our process.
So Sheena in the, what'd you say, POX?
The POX, volunteer Andrew Eastman.
And what's the experience of that volunteer? Because this is a chief level position.
But we've already asked, so the commission agreed to take a volunteer from POX, and having that fire expertise at all levels is
right. They put their names into a hat, and Andrew's name was picked on behalf of the POX staff, and then Garrett Christian name was picked on behalf of the career staff.
So being on the panel in the room asking questions is going to be balanced out between each one of the panelists?
So it will be a consensus of the team. So all of the ratings put together to identify who is the top candidate. So Andrew's feedback is just as important as Garrett's and as Chief Gross.
Well, I don't mean not importance. I mean in the sense of, do you understand what that role should have and should do? You know, here's my opinion about it, but what is it based on?
Yeah, and
that's why I was saying that more senior role of a Chad as well, you know, not necessarily pushing that person out, but also having another senior leadership on that panel that could speak to that level of what is the strategic messages, strategic plan, long term that you may not have quite gotten with that diversity. And I thought that, you know, the administrator was still on that panel, and I guess I missed it in the channels of going back and forth.
So we said in our last meeting, we all agreed, those of us that were here, that we would trust the process. Mm-hmm. We're in the 11th hour of this now. We've been talking about this process since late last year, and who the roles that certain individuals would play throughout the process. And now we're at a point where we're looking to undo some of that because it doesn't work now for this single meeting group. And to me, that's not trusting the process.
Talking about trusting the process, I'm going to bring it up because I brought this up last week, was the meeting that we had last week, we changed the process. If we would have trusted the process, we would have allowed the panelists to read the application, score it, and we wouldn't have had that meeting last Wednesday to discuss the applicants. If that meeting wouldn't have happened, we would have trusted the process. And we did not. We had that meeting to meet with the panelists. So there was a change there. So why can we not make this one change to have a mayor that will be supervising a candidate? If the mayor is meeting individually with the candidate and the mayor meets individually with the fire chief and Chad meets individually with the fire chief, that's pretty normal that we do a meet and greet individually.
What makes that normal?
I guess I'm just trying to understand why is there like opposing the mayor to meet individually with the candidate?
I
guess I'm just trying to figure that out.
I don't agree. That's not my position. What my position is, now there's another individual meeting privately or meet and greet, and that is the city administrator. And I don't understand why we need to now, in order to accommodate the mayor, we're now putting the city administrator in a position where his meet and greets are by himself with the candidates. I'm like,
can we combine someone with the administrator and not make that a one-on-one?
We have already a solution. We're trying to deviate from it.
You put people in authority and then you don't give them the authority.
The problem is they don't have authority to hire fire chiefs. That's statutory, right? The reason we're here is because the mayor doesn't hire fire chiefs. She doesn't fire fire chiefs either. That's our job. I've just read the email. She's making it sound like an interview. She uses the word interview 5 times in her email. So she's clearly looking at it as an interview, which isn't appropriate in this process, in my mind, for the city mayor and the city administrator to have individual interviews with candidates. They don't make the decision. Maybe they advise us, but they certainly don't make the choice, right? So having a one-on-one interview, and I want to be clear, her email says she thinks this is a lack of trust in her competency. Not at all. That's not, I'm not questioning her authority or ability at all, right? My whole issue is the fact that she feels so strongly she has to interview one-on-one with each of these candidates. I don't think that's part of the process. I don't think it's been part of the process in the past for these positions. A city administrator is different. There's no panel that votes that person, that hires that person. The mayor hires that person. So of course they're gonna have one-on-one interview. This is a different situation. This is a PFC hiring a fire chief that isn't, by definition, supposed to be the mayor's choice. And I think that's, to me, that's speaks to it. I don't begrudge her for wanting to meet the candidates. I hope she does. And that's what I think we're offering her, the chance to meet the candidates with the city administrator. All of her goals she outlined in the email can happen with Chad Brecklin sitting there just as much as it can with her sitting there by herself. I think it sends the wrong message to the candidates if they feel like now they have to interview with a mayor in a one-on-one setting and they feel like this is part of their job. If they don't succeed, then they may not get chosen. I don't want to send that message to the candidates.
The good news is it's already been communicated that they have a possible meet and greet with the mayor. So it's been posed as a meet and greet, not an interview.
I know, but in the mayor's mind, she's using the word interview a lot. And if she feels like that's what it is, I guess I'm challenging that, or I'm asking for why it has to be with one-on-one. Why can't it be Chad and the mayor? Why not? What's the difference? She wants to ask about their alignment with city goals or the rapport and authentic responses. All of those, I think, can be accomplished with Chad in the room. I don't see a good argument why it has to be one-on-one from my perspective. I don't begrudge her for wanting to meet the candidates. Like I said, I don't think it's a trust thing, a competency thing. That's not, I didn't even think of that until I read it in the email. It just seems to strike a little bit of a different tone to me when someone is so staunchly requesting it to be one-on-one. I don't get the motivation. And again, if she was here, I'd ask her, but she's not.
So we've had discussion. Is there any other discussion? Are we ready to take a vote? Due to the sensitive nature of this topic and the discussions that we've had, my suggestion would be as chair that we go and vote by each individual commissioner. So it's clear for the record, you know, your position. And I'm recommending that we go in alphabetical order. Commissioner Banks, you're up first.
Yes, I vote to approve the mayor to have the one-on-one.
So it's a
yes.
A, yay, nay, no, okay, yay. Commissioner Baxter?
Nay.
Nay. Commissioner Barra?
To approve the meet and greet.
So it's a yay. Commissioner O'Day?
Nay, respectfully.
Nay. And finally, Commissioner Russell, that's me. My vote is a nay.
Well, I will let Chad know to meet with the mayor and the meet and greet together. So, okay, all right. And then the next topic here is the public reception details. So we just need to finalize a few things. So location is one of them. So you want me to do a little bit of homework to find out the cost for different places. I contacted Mainstays, it's $1,000. Wyndham is $600. That is feasible if we needed to do that. There is the B, Metro Transit Route B that comes every 15 minutes to Caddis Bend and Cahill. So it's accessible if we wanted to hold it there. Otherwise, I did contact the Painters Union. I'm waiting for a response back, but that's likely available, and that's on King James Way and also on a bus line. That's where we have the police chief reception. And then Fire Station 1 and 2, The reason that we're kind of looking at these other options is that there's not a bus line on Fire Station 1 or 2 to make it easily accessible. But we can fit 75 in Fire Station 1 and 50 in Fire Station 2. So does anyone have any feelings or thoughts about which one of those places you'd like to see the public reception? And this will be the evening of March 6th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m.
Is there a cost for the other locations?
Patriots Union would be free. Patriots Union would be free. Fire stations would be free. The Wyndham is at $600, but the mainstay is $1,000. Is a little up there.
And it's the mainstay.
I think it's right next to Wyndham. It's right over there by Qdoba.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, closer to Qdoba.
Yeah.
I got you, right behind.
So, what do you think? Would you want the fire chief to be at the fire station or another location?
To me, it's about accessibility to the citizens. So we want to make sure that the closer we can get it to a bus line, I think is more appropriate.
So that's the
we would love if the bus line went right by Firehouse 1. We'd love to have it at Firehouse 1, but unfortunately it's not on a bus line.
Would that be disruptive if there was some calls for people to be in the firehouse, or you would be able to still do something?
Yeah, Firehouse 1 is our admin firehouse. Not like 2 and 3 where those are the more operational ones where the crews run out of 24/7. It's just, Firehouse 1 is where the future fire chief's office is at, and that's where they're going to be working out of, along with me and Kim Miller and Chief Malekish. So it'd be awesome if, like I said, if we could have it at Firehouse 1, but it's just not on a bus line.
Do we really feel like the bus line? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I've got a little bit of a delay. I caught you. Go ahead.
No.
One thought is, could we offer like Uber vouchers or something for people who need the rides to Firehouse 1? What do you think of that as an alternative to paying $1,000 if we're paying $10, as the city to cover costs for people to get there for 10 people? It's probably more economical, and we still get it to have it at Firehouse 1.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I would have to check with our finance department and just see if that's something we would be allowed. But yeah, that would definitely save us money there.
School bus, go pick up.
Right. We could look at some transportation options.
That'd be a good option. You want to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, but shuttle, school buses,
At a bus stop, like
but even then, here, the bus stop out here closes at a certain time. So you'd almost have to have a special pickup right near the B line. So that at least they can get to a mainstay, right?
Yeah.
And then get on the shuttle from there
mainstay to go over to the payment.
But the King James Way Patriots Union, my understanding is the bus is right there, right?
Oh, I'd have to go back over there.
No, that bus route.
It's just so far north of me. I mean, it's in the top corner of the city. I think it belongs at a...
Do we really have transportation issues around Fitchburg that people can't get around?
That's a good question. I mean, we always try to keep
that
that
a
in
concern
mind.
for our citizens?
I mean, it always is, right? I mean, like transportation and making sure, even like the bilingual ability, right? So we had a couple of translators there at the police public reception ready to, live, be able to put it in Spanish, but we didn't have anybody show up. But we had that available just in case,
So we're sending out emails or surveys of letting people know this is happening, that they're invited to come.
That will start tomorrow as soon as we know the location. So that's why the location's so important, so that we can kind of save the date for the time, the date, and then where it's gonna be.
Are we kind of putting in a RSVP to kind of?
We didn't.
To get a feel of how many we're gonna need, how much space?
I don't think it'll be more than 50 to 75.
Okay, that's just the norm. Okay.
So we need to take action tonight on that.
Yeah,
with
for
the
sure.
free
It's only
place.
2 weeks away.
Free place,
Yeah, free
Fire
place.
Station 1.
Train station.
or the painters union is free as well.
Yeah, painters.
What's our, can you go
So
the
the
options
patrons,
again?
yeah, so the options, Fire Station 1, Fire Station 2. Station 2 holds a little less, so my vote would be Station 1 just because it holds 75 versus 50. The Painters Union though, I won't know until the end of the week if that is truly available. So what we could do is vote on one and then have a second
Okay.
as like a backup, just in case. The voucher thing, I'm not sure I would be able to turn around in a couple weeks. So I want to say that might not be an option. That could be something to look into for future engagement and outreach events. But
So for tonight purposes, is between Fire Station 1 and 2.
Fire Station 1, yes, because we don't know about the Painters Union quite yet.
Yeah, and the 2 hotels are cost.
Wyndham.
1,000 we don't want. Wyndham is 600. Yeah, that's a lot.
I think they could just donate,
Yeah,
right? You're in the community, we'll come and you call us, give us the room for free for 2 hours.
Is that where the candidates are staying?
So I did send them the mainstays in Wyndham. You'd be surprised how many of the candidates have ties to the area. They have family or they have vacation homes around here, so it's kind of neat. So most people didn't even need lodging information. I only had time for 2. So.
Okay, so can we get a motion for our first choice?
I move we make the public reception at Fire Station 1.
I second.
Any discussion?
Discussion would be.
My discussion would be the transportation.
Oh.
That's the place, I mean, I would like it there, but there's no transportation, correct?
Correct. Now, on the flip side, FACTv can have it live, so people can watch from anywhere that they are at. And they could potentially even make it so if people wanted to interact a little bit, but we're gonna already do a call out for questions from the public, so that's their chance to, but FACTv will have this all televised.
And they have that capability at Fire Station 1?
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, any of these locations are FACTv approved.
Would it be by where you vote? Like the upstairs garage area, would that be the location?
Chad, where would we have the reception at Station 1? Would it be in the bay?
No, we can probably put it out in the bay. Just to be on the safe side, because I would hate, like I said, we can only get 75.
The fire marshal may say to
Yes, exactly.
Maybe give us a temporary.
So then we'll just open up the apparatus bay and just make sure that we have more than enough.
Any other questions, comments?
I would like to try and explore a way just to pay for people who need transportation. Maybe a private donor will make an anonymous contribution toward that or something. So maybe Sarah, we could still try and figure that out.
Thank you, Tom.
Absolutely, Tom.
Yeah, consider it a friendly amendment to
I'm happy to look into that. I will definitely let the commission know.
All right, sounds good.
And then the next part of the public reception. So, Tom, we started discussing the questions that we're going to ask at the public reception because it's kind of tied with the interview questions. So I will connect with you after this and just let you know what those questions were. But one of the questions that we have for you is if we need a moderator, so we need someone who would be able to essentially ask the questions during the Q&A part of the public reception. Do you have any thoughts about, or does anyone have any thoughts about who that should be?
I move that the moderator would be.
A point of order, we didn't vote on the last motion.
Oh, thank you.
So if we could wrap that up and then continue with the discussion around moderator.
Yeah.
So all in favor of Fire Station 1 being the reception place?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
I would really like the fire station. My concern is transportation for community to attend, people that want to attend.
So it sounds like that's a nay, But what Tom recommended in terms of looking into our opportunities for.
Would Metro consider making some special runs that day?
There'd be funding, we'd have to pay for that.
We'll have video.
Yeah, how much, you know?
I could look into that.
You know, if they made a couple runs from a few key spots in the city, like Madison Metro, maybe they make a 6:30 pickup and an 8:30 drop off.
I can check.
So that was 4 yeas and 1 nay. Motion passes.
Thank you for catching that. So yeah, the moderator. So we do need to figure out who will kind of open it up, introduce the commissioners, and then really be responsible for the Q&A. And I know at the last process we had, you know, we can have commissioners do it, we can have the PFC president do it, Tom, or it could be anyone that you can think of. So if you have any thoughts or ideas on who you'd like to be that moderator for the evening, I'll track the time, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'll be tracking how much time each candidate has, but we definitely need someone to be kind of the spokesperson for the evening.
I move that the PFC president, Tom O'Day, be the moderator for that interview process.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
What about doing like an alder, or opening it up to alders to do it? Or would the mayor want to do it, or a former mayor want to do it?
I believe since the PFC is the ones who are doing the hiring decision for the fire chief, it should be the president of the PFC.
Does the president get to have a say?
Yes.
We're still in discussion, Commissioner O'Day.
Yeah, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
None? Motion passed.
Yay.
See you, Commissioner O'Day, the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Volunteering.
The last, so tomorrow we'll start kind of getting the word out about the public reception. Now, Tom, when we were in closed session, we talked about the questions, and it kind of moved into a little bit about the process. So my apologies. We talked about basically starting out the public reception with a 5-minute opener by each of the candidates. And then after that, having about 4 questions that would be asked of them. They'd have 3 minutes to answer those questions. And then they'd be able to mingle with the candidates or with the people in the room. And then they'd have 3 minutes to close, basically coming on back and then just, again, reiterating why they feel like they would be the best candidate. So it would be, a strictly 2-hour event, and asking some questions, but also giving them the floor to share a little bit about who they are. So that's kind of a little bit about the process. What are your thoughts about that process? Are you okay with like a hybrid? So it's similar to the police chief, but we're giving them a chance to kind of give more of an opener and then a closer.
Yep, I like that.
Excellent. Great. Well, we'll start getting the word out about the public reception tomorrow. So it's 2 weeks already from this week. So,
oh, wow.
And then, yeah, we'll, if you have any questions about the process, but thank you for letting us use Fire Station 1. Appreciate it. Otherwise, though, I will find out about transportation and get back to the commission.
All right, great. Agenda item 7, announcements.
The only thing is we have our first citizen complaint, and so I sent an email. I just want to make sure I have Veronica available February 26th, Brian virtually on February 26th. Sean, are you available?
I'm not.
Okay. Tom, are you available on February 26th?
What time?
It'd be evening, right?
Yep, at 5 p.m.
I think so.
Okay. And then Angela?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just needed to get this on the calendar, so I just wanted to make sure I get the right date.
Any other announcements? All right, moving to agenda item number 8, adjournment. I'll take a motion.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
second that.
All right, any discussion? All right, I'm sure we're all in favor of this, so let's call the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Night all. See you later.
All right.